Hello. So the myth has long been that in order to stay young and beautiful looking, we need special wrinkle creams. According to Dr. John Lakey, the world-renowned Beverly Hills beauty expert, most of those wrinkle fixes on the market are nothing more than glorified moisturizers. So recently, Dr. Lakey has focused his attention away from mainstream cosmetic practice to pursue a revolutionary anti-aging technology breakthrough, one that some experts say could empty the wallets of the cosmetics industry. His personal clients have dubbed his new do-it-yourself technique the age rewinder method, because it can take years or even decades off your appearance in under 2 minutes. I could do with some of this stuff. Dr. Lakey has released a step-by-step video to the public, free and uninterrupted, where he outlines exactly how to use this simple solution from home. Go watch the video at bhmdnumeral1.com/Ross right now, or just click on the link in the description box below.
We're at a critical juncture in the evolution of military technology, commercial innovation, and cybersecurity. UASs have become a transformative force. The proliferation of UAS, both domestically and abroad, has raised serious concerns regarding the potential misuse and criminal activities, espionage, and more alarmingly, in threats to U.S. national security.
There is an undeniable threat from those who misuse this technology, either through ignorance of the rules and regulations or with malicious intent.
And I just want to say, if you're watching the news today, we've had several incidents that have occurred and are occurring right now in places like New Jersey. Recently, we had an incident at Langley Air Force Base. The threat is real.
G'day and welcome back to Reality Check, or should I say welcome back to the second part of what we're calling the drones debacle, the ongoing saga of the Pentagon's dithering over whatever the hell it is that's causing mischief in our skies. Okay, so as you saw yesterday in part one of the drones debacle, it's quite clear now that the FBI has absolutely no idea what's going on. So one of the primary agencies that we entrust to secure the national security of the United States has admitted that we don't even know if these objects are actually drones at all. We don't know what they are. We haven't been able to follow them. We haven't been able to recover them. Somebody is not, I suspect, revealing all they know, which does raise the eminence grise of the Pentagon. What does the Pentagon know? Well, fortuitously and serendipitously, late yesterday, the Pentagon, through a spokeswoman, issued a number of interesting statements. And so they were asked specifically about the drone sightings in New Jersey because of, obviously, the mounting public concern. And the Pentagon spokeswoman said that they were aware of the drone sightings that have been reported. She said also, at this time, we have no evidence that these activities are coming from a foreign entity or the work of an adversary. We are going to continue to monitor what is happening. But at no point were our installations threatened when this activity was occurring. She went on to say something more, but I just want to deal with that first. Firstly, who cares that the Pentagon is aware of the drones issue? I would have thought they were aware of it because it's been ongoing now for several months. President Joe Biden said something similar. I think his spokeswoman to a White House briefing said that the president was aware as well. Who cares? Frankly, the public want answers. They want to know not that the president or the Pentagon are aware of this, they want to know whatever the heck it is. Now, there is a concern in stories like this that an information vacuum is developing, and that as time goes on, the less that the Pentagon and the President reveals, the greater the public panic. And yes, that's already starting to happen. There are crazy speculations now starting to surface on social media that these drones are part of an impending coup, or worse still, that they might be some non-state actor, perhaps some internal red state entity inside the United States that's plotting treason against the US government. So let's deal with that. There were a couple of questions asked next of the Pentagon spokeswoman about that issue. She was asked, can you rule out that these are American drones or, and it was unintelligible, something military drones? And she said, these are not US military drones. Note the categorical statement. Again, this is being investigated by local law enforcement. Who cares? What our initial assessment here is that these are not drones or activities coming from a foreign entity or adversary. And she went on to deny a wacky story that's been in circulation that this might be an Iranian government mothership just over the horizon releasing drones towards the east coast of the United States. And mercifully, she saved us from that dastardly plot by saying there is not any truth to that. There is no Iranian ship off the US, and there is no so-called mothership launching drones towards the United States. What a relief. But what is interesting is we now have, at least inferentially, we know that there are categorically no US military drones, and because the question was specifically asking about American drones, it does appear to be a statement from the White House spokeswoman that this is not American drones of any agency of the US government. But some people have pointed out to me that it might be some DHS drone or some other government agency drone. I don't see any evidence of that. If anybody's got any evidence of that, please get in touch with me. But I take that to be a fairly categorical statement by the government that, let's be honest, they have absolutely no idea what's going on, which, if you think about it, would be funny if it wasn't so serious. So let's get into the nitty-gritty of today's show. We want to go on the ground in New Jersey, and we've got a local correspondent there, Katie Corrado, who's a journalist with the local WPIX station, which is a NewsNation affiliate. Let's cross to Katie and see what's happening on the ground there. What's the feeling among the New Jersey locals who are still having to put up with these drone incursions? Katie, thanks so much for joining us. Can you give us an update? Are these drone incursions, or so-called drone incursions, still occurring?
They are. I've seen them myself as recently as 2 nights ago. They are very much still happening.
What are you seeing? Like, how large are these objects, and are they displaying anything that you might regard as unusual movements for a drone?
So the way that I've described it is that to see one of the drones in isolation doesn't necessarily seem alarming. The problem is when you see 5, 6, 7 of them in the same area of the night sky at once, and they're going in different directions at different speeds, at different altitudes, and they sort of have different appearances. There's a couple different types that I would say that I've seen. There's one that is what I would consider to be a typical commercial drone that more hovers. You don't really hear anything from it. And then there seems to be a second, larger type of drone that sounds like a helicopter, flies lower, and looks to be about the size of like a small car.
The size of a small car? And how long are they staying on location for? That's the other thing that people are suggesting to me. I'm getting an enormous number of emails and messages from people telling me that in some cases, these objects are hovering in location all night.
I have definitely seen drones that have been hovering, and I've also talked to people who have seen the drones hover. I have not seen any that have been hovering over an area for, hours on end. But I will go out in my backyard 4 or 5 times during the night, and I'll see a variety of different drones, but I never really see the same drone in the same place.
Now, what's significant, Katie, is especially in New Jersey, the mayors are getting together. There's 25 mayors getting together now, and they're really concerned. They've been waiting for answers from the Defense Department and the intelligence community, Homeland Security and the FBI, and they're anxious. They're not getting answers. You're on the ground. What are the locals saying? How are people on the ground, the citizenry, the good citizenry and burghers of New Jersey? Are they getting concerned?
Yes, it is. It seems to be the talk of the town. It started out being the talk of Morris County, and now it's slowly just sort of spiderwebbed out into the entire state. people are frustrated. They're confused. I think unsettled is a really good way to describe how people feel. They don't understand why, if there is nothing nefarious going on, if there's nothing to hide, why no one has come out and said anything. They understand that their local mayors may not know, but they want to hear something from the FBI, from Homeland Security.
You know, I would have expected that the governor would know, but I noticed New Jersey Governor Murphy, he actually came out and made the most extraordinary statement. He said, the drones are very sophisticated. The minute you get eyes on them, they go dark. Are you hearing those kind of descriptions from locals?
I did hear that from somebody. I did hear that from somebody else today, but it was initially from the comment that Governor Murphy made, because I think, the average person on the ground doesn't really have, they're not interacting with these drones other than taking pictures with them, videos. But I have heard that, anecdotally from other people.
And then there's the issue of very sensitive military facilities in the New Jersey area, which are getting overflown. I noticed the Picatinny Arsenal is one, and another one is the Naval Weapons Station Earl. And Tony Perry, the mayor of Middletown in New Jersey, he said that there were a dozen unmanned drones over Naval Weapons Station Earl. And I think it's 11 confirmed drones or objects over Picatinny Arsenal. You tell me, by any measure, that sounds to me like a national security concern. If an object, an unmanned aerial vehicle that's apparently not ours, is hovering over a sensitive military facility, which is restricted airspace, which allegedly contains extremely dangerous weapons, why is this not being publicly acknowledged as a national security concern? Why is it being so played down, do you believe?
That's a great question. And it's the question that I feel like I've been trying to answer for the last couple of weeks. I talked to Tony Perry today from Middletown, and I'm also actually at Picatinny Arsenal right now. And there are signs right outside the base that say clearly, no drones. You cannot fly drones over Picatinny Arsenal for very obvious reasons, for military reasons. And the Arsenal confirmed to me today 11 confirmed sightings since November 13th. So it is really unnerving when you hear that. And then again, down in Middletown, and I was talking to the mayor of Morristown last week, and he was concerned because President-elect Trump flies into Morristown Airport to then drive to his Bedminster golf course. So you have all of these really sensitive areas, and nobody really seems to have an explanation. And it's very unsettling.
So just explain to our audience that perhaps doesn't know where Bedminster Golf Course is. That's inside New Jersey, and that's where President-elect Trump in the past has previously held a lot of meetings, and he's been holding meetings there in the last few weeks. Where exactly is Bedminster?
Bedminster is in Somerset County, so it is, I would say, within half an hour of where we are at Picatinny Arsenal. So this area of New Jersey, you have a lot. You have Picatinny Arsenal, you have Morristown Airport, which is a small regional airport hub. That's, again, where the president-elect flies into to go to Bedminster. You are 40 minutes from EWR. You are an hour from LaGuardia and JFK. So a lot of people have been saying this is commercial air traffic.
So what I think is significant is out of New Jersey, you're seeing a group of local government representatives, mayors, turning up the heat on the government. Mm-hmm. They're not getting answers. The president has apparently, through his spokesperson, said that he's aware and monitoring the drones issue. Is that enough, do you think, in light of what you're hearing from the local mayors in New Jersey?
I feel like it's saying a house is on fire and a fire department's not responding. Like, it just seems kind of ridiculous to me. They're saying, yes, the president is aware of these drone sightings. Period. End of story. That's all that you're commenting.
And look, the other thing, Katie, that just bewilders me is full marks to WPIX for the great coverage that you and the network have been doing covering this issue. Is there equivalent coverage on some of the mainstream broadcasters that's actually covering what you obviously regard as a serious issue?
I have seen other coverage. I wish that we could be doing this story every single day, because to me, when you have drones flying overhead and you don't have answers to that, that's a story every single day until you get some answers.
Well, you would have been around, of course, last year when there were these incredible overflights over the United States in February 2023, when the public went nuts. The Congress went bananas over these objects that were flying over US airspace. One of them was found to be a Chinese balloon and brought down off the coast of Louisiana. But there were 3 unidentified objects that were eventually brought down by fighters. The Congress and the public rightly turned this into a grave concern of flight safety and national security. Why do you think that there's not the same level of engagement by most of the media to date on this issue?
I don't have any sort of reasonable answer for that. None.
What's it going to take then? What do you think is going to happen in the New Jersey area if these drone incursions continue and they're showing no signs of abating in the New Jersey area? In fact, they're spreading. I'm hearing reports now from Pennsylvania, and I've even spoken to a lady in Arkansas who's telling me she's seeing objects over her property. If this continues to escalate, I mean, obviously the mayors in New Jersey aren't going to let go, but more importantly, what do you think the public mood's going to become?
I think the longer you go without getting some sort of answer, something at all, it's just going to allow people to fill in the blanks in their heads and maybe create narratives that may not be true, or it allows for speculation to grow. And I think the longer you go, the more outlandish people are going to start thinking.
Katie, there's one story I'm personally interested in because I've had people emailing me about it. It was allegations, and they are only allegations, that there was an object brought down near a reservoir in part of New Jersey. And indeed, people posted flashing police lights, people on the ground, and what appeared to be some kind of luminous object that was tilted on its side. Have you been able to investigate that allegation? Have you heard about what I'm talking about?
I have heard of a few reports of drones coming down, but I haven't been able to get anywhere with any of them because they've all either come back as they're a toy or they are unfounded. If there is anything to them, it's being very, very closely covered up. But no, we haven't heard anything beyond, just the speculation and the rumors that you've heard.
Well, I can say for one, Katie, that frankly, the level of response I'm getting from my audience, and clearly the feeling you're getting from the people on the ground there in New Jersey, is the less answers we get, the more there is an information background vacuum, the more it becomes an enormous problem for the government and for the various agencies that they're not providing answers, because the public are going to start panicking.
Right, exactly. And that is what everybody has told me. The more you go without answers, the more you think that there's something wrong, that that maybe the government doesn't have an answer, doesn't know, but you have to eventually come out and say something because people are legitimately scared. I mean, I was legitimately kind of scared a couple of nights ago. There have been a few nights where the drone sightings have just been really eerie to watch. It feels like, something out of a sci-fi movie a little bit. And I want answers just like everybody else.
Is anyone talking aliens, Katie?
I don't think yes, I've seen plenty of chatter online. I've seen plenty of talk in the UAP communities. From what I have seen, everything looks like it is a commercial drone. From what I've seen, it looks like it's commercial. But I also can't understand why 2+ weeks into this, there is no sort of an explanation. It doesn't make sense to me.
It doesn't make sense to me either. Look, Katie Kurata, thank you so much for joining Reality Check. And here at NewsNation, we're very grateful to you for the work that you're doing on the ground. Keep on digging and come back to us if you find anything. We'd love to hear from you. Thank you so much.
Will do. Thank you, Ross.
Okay, I'd now like to welcome some good friends of Reality Check, John and Jerry Tedesco, my favourite citizen scientists. You'll remember them from a Reality Check episode a month or so ago where we brought them on to talk about the extraordinary work they've been doing off the coast of Long Island, where they both live. And what they've been doing is, with their own gear that they've bought at their own huge expense, they've been observing anomalous phenomena off the coast of Long Island ever since I think about 2 years ago. John and Jerry, welcome back to Reality Check. What can you tell us about your impressions of what's been recorded over New Jersey in the last few weeks?
Hello, Russ. We're happy to be here.
Happy to be here.
I'll let you go.
It's crazy. A good number of the objects are similar to some of the things we were seeing off the coast, or like these twinkling lights, kind of rotating lights. Then there's the other mixed bag where you see something that resembles navigation lights. They're drone-like objects, or would appear to look like drones.
Right, and the question is whether or not it's the same thing. Whether that all of the stuff that people are observing, are they in fact two different objects, two different sources of as far as where they come from, or is it the same, or is it maybe a U.S. response to it, having drone activity out there, drone-like.
So kind of recon or surveillance.
Yeah.
So I know you guys, it's a delicate subject because, of course, the contact from government agencies is always slightly covert and discreet. But I know you guys, from our previous conversations, have been approached by the FBI, and that there's an FBI team that's long been investigating the UAP sightings in and around that part of America. Have you been in touch with the FBI and Homeland Security in recent weeks or recent days after these anomalous, strange incidents over New Jersey?
We have. Unfortunately, it's not a lot, that we can share publicly.
We could say it's been productive.
Yeah, but it's been productive, and there's definitely a genuine concern out there about this stuff.
Now, one thing that you did tell me off camera is that there's some questions that basically the authorities are interested in getting answered. What are those questions?
Okay, so we reached out to some contacts we had in some of the federal and state agencies, and these are individuals that had some concerns. They felt they were kind of in the dark themselves, and let's see if I can raise these questions. They put a list of 10 questions together that they say the American public should be asking the authorities and their governors. The first one is, how does the government know that these craft are human-made drones?
Good question.
Second, how does the government know the intent of these craft? Third, Why has the government declined to take action against these craft? Four, have these craft similarly affected adversarial nations?
And they have?
Okay. 5, other than seeing something and saying something, what should the general public do if these craft engage them? There's an unverified report of one hovering over a car, interfering with the car's digital equipment like its clock. And that's something they shared. 6, what are the potential consequences of taking action against the drones or drone-like entities, like shooting it with a gun? 7, do these craft emit radiation, and are there affordable and accessible sensors or detectors a person can purchase for themselves? 8, have any of these craft been seen emitting substances like angel hair?
Wow.
And the 9th question was, what should be the response of first responders should they come across these craft that land or crash? The last question is, what first responders should do if let's see, if they crash or land, but let's see. Okay. A final question would be to ask why there is no coordinated federal preparedness guidance or direction for municipalities nationwide, only reactive, isolated responses. And
so gents, can I just ask you this? Those are questions that have been asked by somebody in an agency that you don't want to name, that should be being asked by the public. Is that a correct representation?
Yes. That's correct.
So what that's telling me is that there are people in government agencies, and I won't try and name them, who are genuinely concerned that they're not getting answers.
Exactly.
Right. And that's the way we would interpret it.
And they feel they're in the dark also. These couple of individuals were pretty frustrated from the conversation we had.
That is really alarming. Well, I can tell you, just to add to that, we know that just in the last few minutes, the Homeland Security Committee hearing has ended in Congress, and a senior representative of the FBI, a Mr. Wheeler, has admitted they don't know what these objects are, that's a breathtaking admission.
That's very unsettling.
Yeah, that's an oddity. That's an oddity.
So one of the other things that you guys have kindly given to us just in the last few hours are videos. Can you talk to the videos that you've included in what you've sent to us?
You want to mention the first video?
Right. So the first, let me just pull that up because we had just sent it off, and I believe the first video is a dark object. What we're considering dark objects because of the way they're presenting to our eyes, our hyperspectral equipment that we're looking at them. There are some objects that can be seen visibly, and it's the colorful lighting, bright, luminous presentation. These objects, they can't be seen with the naked eye, and in some cases, they can't be seen with night vision equipment. You have to go deep within the night vision spectrum in order to see them. And we noticed that over the last year of examining and investigating some of these aerial objects, the presentation is very, very difficult, even in the night vision cameras and the night vision goggles. You really got to you focus your eyes on them. And it's got to be some degree of motion. If there's no motion, you probably wouldn't be able to pick it out. They seem to be, lack of a better term, almost like they seem to be absorbing light. They're not reflecting light at all. There's some cases where they come up, they're darker than the rest of the environment,
Almost like a black body source.
or like a black body source, or I mean, the paper. Go ahead.
Just forgive me for interrupting, but just so I know which video we're talking to, is this the first in the files you've sent me? It's 7/15/2024 Cube hit. Is that the one with that title?
Yes, there's one object that is just in the visible, and I believe that's the one that you're looking at there. I'm sorry, in the infrared, just in the infrared. That's right. The near infrared.
And so this is what you've captured, presumably with your hyperspectral camera. Is that right?
Exactly. This is with a near infrared camera and the night vision cameras.
And I want to mention something else. When John says that it's even difficult to see some of these dark body, we call them dark bodied objects, or maybe it's some kind of black body, a black body coating on it, or something that absorbs light, doesn't reflect light very well.
Right.
We were using shortwave infrared that goes much deeper into the infrared in order even to notice these, to see these.
Right.
Or at times we had an object that we were focused on in the sky off the coast of Long Island, and there was another second object sitting right next to it. We didn't notice it until we hit it with a high intensity torch, and it actually evaded the torch, but we didn't even see it in the near IR.
That evasion issue brings me to something that I think even the New Jersey Governor Murphy has acknowledged. Yes. He's been quoted as saying the drones are very sophisticated. He says the minute you get eyes on them, they go dark. You're seeing the same thing,
right? Yeah, and we're trying to understand the statement that he made. What aspect of it that it's evading, whether or not it's somebody pointing a light up to it, or is it just once you're making contact with these things, they just kind of evade evade your space, evade your.
Well, it's how far how much you're talking. I mean, the minute you get eyes on it, what does that mean? Does it mean that a helicopter approached them, or they shined a searchlight on it? Even if it goes dark, let's say it shuts all its lights off. There's radar. You could detect them by radar, or you could use a searchlight. So, I mean, how dark? What exactly is he talking about? That's the question.
Right.
We're seeing these objects actually change the spectral range.
Gentlemen, there's another video that you've got which is quite extraordinary. It's entitled "Connecticut Police Officer UAP." Talk to that video, please. It's a very dramatic image of what looks like a golden red orb, orangey orb. What's that image that you've sent me?
Right. That's an enhanced image of the video taken. I think it was from NewsNation. I'm pretty sure it was. And it's what we did is enhance the video look at the the spectral range of that light.
No, you saw with the Connecticut video.
Right, that's the one, the Connecticut video where it shoots across the.
This is the story we did a couple of weeks ago. Okay, right, and this was the police officer who witnessed this from his cruiser. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, it does resemble some of the objects we saw. It has this polyhedral shape to it.
Right.
You see these fine plated sides.
And that's what we wanted to differentiate. But whether or not it was the same thing that we were seeing, were pretty close, presenting itself in a very similar fashion.
Also, it occurred in I believe it was 2022. At the same time we were seeing these objects. That area of Fairfield County is directly across from the North Shore area that we seeing a linear formation of objects.
I see. I thought that might be the case.
Right.
So I see also that you've got a nice image there of the Nightcrawler. Is there any contemplation? Would you consider taking the Nightcrawler, your mobile laboratory, into New Jersey to try and get closer looks with your top line hyperspectral cameras at these images?
Yeah, well, we were approached by several people that reached out to us that they would provide a place to park, and set up shop to actually look at this stuff, with the research equipment that we have.
So we think we were actually we're considering going out there within a week or two.
Yeah. So we may end up bringing our equipment out there.
Right. So just going through the images, just let me know if there are any particular images that you think we should be speaking to. There's one that intrigues me. It's image 1 RMP DLN cell phone photograph, August 2022. And it shows, what it's showing essentially is that you're recording images of orbs, spherical orbs, that are very similar, if not identical, to the objects that are now being seen over New Jersey.
Yes,
they're very similar.
Yeah, they're presenting the same way. They're some of them have a kaleidoscope appearance, and we've actually released a paper, that. On our website that it's just was accepted for publication by the Open Journal of Applied Science, and we're introducing a theory behind this that may kind of unify things a little bit as far as what people are seeing.
So, gentlemen, obviously we're talking here about the objects you're seeing. The objects you're seeing, in some cases, you believe that they're showing what we call the 5 observables, or some of the 5 observables, which are indications of anomalous behavior. At the moment, I just don't think we know enough about the New Jersey objects to say for sure. But do you believe you're seeing objects that conform to the 5 observables where you are, just off Long Island?
Absolutely. The visual acuity is very difficult. These objects are, they can move instantaneously. They're very difficult to see. We've seen them, move between different environments. It's at one time we saw the objects that would position themselves above the ocean surface and then suddenly dive beneath it without producing any kind of a splash or anything like that. These things that we've actually recorded over the last 2 years of our research. They seem to align certainly with what Lou has presented as far as the 5 observables, and I would say that over a 2-year period, I think we've met every one of those criteria.
So, as scientists, do you believe that what you are seeing is potentially evidence of a non-human intelligence?
Yeah, I think we have to consider that. It's something that needs to be considered. We have to collect more data, but there's some bizarre features of these objects. So at least the technology is quite different from what we've seen previously.
And it certainly doesn't align with current day technology.
The changes in spectral signatures and the sudden appearances and disappearances, and some of the flight behaviors are very strange.
And crucially, the thing I'm really heartened by, this is not playing politics, I'm just really heartened by the fact that you believe, being taken seriously with that hypothesis by very senior officials from some of the top 3-letter agencies.
Yeah, I believe so, yes. Yeah.
Well, that's good news in and of itself. I have to say, John and Jerry, I would love to see you guys with your hyperspectral cameras getting off places like the Picatinny Arsenal or some of the places around New Jersey where these objects are being seen. It would be good to definitively resolve whether the objects that are being recorded over New Jersey are identical to the ones that you've been recording.
Right.
Yeah,
It would be a great opportunity for us,
especially for us to take a look. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Hey,
that's
John and Jerry,
fine.
I really appreciate you joining Reality Check. I'm looking forward to catching up with you in person when I get to America next year. Thank you once again for giving us your insights on these weird sightings over New Jersey.
That sounds good, Russ, and we welcome you out.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, so while we have this crazy situation that the authorities are saying, don't panic, everything's fine, and they have absolutely no idea what's going on, it's quite clear from your questions that you're concerned. So I've decided it'd be quite important for us to try and respond to some of the questions that people are asking. So we'll start off with the first question. How can the governor, Homeland, FBI say there is no public safety concern with these drones, but they don't know who they are, where they're coming from? If they don't know those simple facts, how can they possibly know their intent? What if they are programmed to go kamikaze on a future date? It's a big national security threat. And that's from @TheFriarEli. Well, I can tell you, I completely agree with that analysis. They simply can't give any assurance that there is no threat to national security. And possibly the best reason to show that is the statement that was made by retired four-star General Barry McCaffrey, who told NBC News on the 8th of December, when you see something of this capacity, he's talking about the drones, you wonder why it would be needed and what they are doing. It implies a heavy payload. And he went on to describe these uncrewed aerial vehicles, these UAVs, these drones, or shall we just say these objects, as a, quote, significant threat to US national security. Quote, what concerns us mostly, said a sheriff for Ocean County, Michael Mastronardi, is that at this point, no one has seen any of these units taking off or landing. Right now, we just want to identify what it is. And as you rightly point out, when you have these objects hovering, not only over civilian areas in New Jersey, but also over some of the most sensitive military facilities in the United States, places that, without naming names, I happen to know there are nuclear weapons located. This is a really grave issue. And as this person speculates, these drones are large, they can potentially carry a payload. What assurances do we have that they're not being forward deployed for some kind of future operation? Okay, the next one from @Odin1028. Ross, I'd like to know how it's possible that these things haven't been tracked back to their source. Great question. Seems to me that if they are conventional, that is, they do not exhibit hypersonic speed or advanced radar cloaking, it would be a simple task. Absolutely, especially considering how long they've been up at this, and they always seem to be in the same place. Something doesn't add up here. Well, look, I don't want to sound like I'm blowing our own trumpet, but we warned months ago that there was something absolutely ridiculous about the official drones explanation for what's been seen over, for example, the Langley Air Force Base in Virginia. These drone sightings, so-called, go back many months. In fact, they go back years. My good friend and colleague Marek von Rennenkamp will be joining us, and he's been talking about the Colorado drone swarms that go right back to, I think, 2020, when there were unexplained objects just like these hovering over vast sections of the Midwest, mainly Colorado, and there were just no explanations given by any of the law enforcement agencies, the FAA, the FBI, the Department of Defense. We just never got an answer. And you know what I think has been happening here? I think that the Department of Defense and the various agencies like Homeland Security, they've been hoping that this might resolve itself. They've been using the explanation that these are foreign adversary drones, possibly Russian. And the way it works for somebody like me as a journalist, there's a lot of backgrounding from intelligence officials. So they won't go on the record, and the excuse is because they don't want to escalate things with Russia or China. But what they'll say is, oh, look, nudge, nudge, wink, wink, we adversary drones. They're Russian organised crime gangs in the UK flying them over UK bases. They're perhaps Russian ships from across over the horizon deploying these drones into the east coast of the United States. I'm sorry, that just doesn't wash. I'm getting reports on these objects from places like Arkansas, the Midwest, over military facilities, close to it, adjacent to military facilities. These objects are being reported in New Zealand, in my country, Australia. A guy has just sent me just overnight images of these objects over Sydney Airport. Nobody is able to explain how a foreign adversary power is able to deploy these objects over so many countries in the world. Oh, and by the way, I've had people from Russia send me their descriptions of what they're seeing in Russia, near sensitive military bases in Russia. If this is Russia, why are these objects manifesting themselves over Russia? Same with China. Next question. At eBravo_X asks, how do drone operators know when people look at their drones so they can turn the lights off? Again, another great question. The thing that really strikes me about this is our audience is asking questions that, frankly, the Pentagon, the FBI, Homeland Security, and all of the intelligence agencies should be asking. It's not unreasonable for you to ask these questions. I agree. We should be able to trace these objects back to source. We do have satellite tracking technology that can read a number plate from 300 miles up. Why can we not find out where these objects are coming from? If they are indeed coming from Russian-linked container ships over the horizon on the east coast of America, prove it. This is the thing. If these are foreign adversary drones, if they really are foreign adversary drones, that is a far more sinister and concerning scenario for national security than if they're non-human intelligences. And I really do think we start having to ask the question, looking at some of the videos, some of the postings on social media, and some of these people I've spoken to directly, so they're prepared to put their names to their videos and say, these are not hoaxes, these are things that I've recorded. Their fathers driving their children to dance class, their mums returning from nursing jobs, and they're saying they're seeing these objects doing anomalous things. I was just sent before coming on air an image of an object that literally flits across the sky and then goes stealth the moment the person filming it gets close. As this person rightly asks, if these are drones, how do people driving these drones know that they're being observed? In some cases, these are literally cars driving along the road, filming an object in the sky. The object somehow seems to know that it's being filmed and it goes stealth. Tell me, how can drone technology, known drone technology, do that? I completely agree with our audience. There are many questions and we need answers. At Hilltop Jennifer asks, Ross, all options seem problematic. If these drones are just US tech or private tech with FAA approval to operate, then why wouldn't the DoD simply give a basic acknowledgement in order to halt public concern? If not, and if foreign adversary or spy drones, then why can't the DoD, with trillions at their disposal, control US airspace? If the DoD is unable to answer these adequately, then what's left on the table? Great question. And this is the issue. I've just this morning read an article written by a very good friend and colleague of mine, Frank Milburn, who's a British former very senior military intelligence officer who knows how military intelligence works in the United Kingdom. And he, in the brilliant journal Liberation Times, has addressed the issue of the ongoing incursions over Royal Air Force bases in the United Kingdom at which United States Air Force people are located, in some cases with potential nuclear weapons. And these incursions are still ongoing. Now, Frank's explanation that he's published in the Liberation Times this morning, which is a great periodical published by my friend Christopher Sharp, his explanation is that these objects are indeed Russian drones that are being operated by Russian organised crime gangs in the UK, and that this is being done by Putin, perhaps as a revenge for the deployment of Storm Shadow missiles by the United Kingdom and the authorization for some of these intermediate long-range missiles to be used inside Russia. And Basically Frank's saying that these objects, these small unmanned aerial systems, continue to be spotted in the vicinity of and over Royal Air Force Lakenheath, which we know has nuclear weapons, Royal Air Force Mildenhall, again, which we know has nuclear weapons, RAF Feltwell and RAF Fairford. These have been ongoing since November the 20th. It's now the 11th of December. It's incredible. That's 3 weeks where these objects have been operating over what are absolutely some of the most sensitive military bases in the United Kingdom. Same happening here in America as well. It's just incredible to me that none of these incursions have able to been tracked back to source, or at least we haven't been told that they've been able to be tracked back to source. I can imagine it's quite plausible, and Frank suggests this, that we should still keep the possibility that these are drones operated by a foreign adversary in the back of our minds. We cannot definitively say anything about what they are. We certainly cannot say that they are UAP, that these are some kind of non-human intelligence manifesting itself over multiple countries around the world. I think we do have to start looking at that potentially more seriously, and Frank acknowledges this in his article. But the simple fact is, we just don't know, which is incredible, because it's not just 3 weeks since, say, mid-November that these objects have been manifesting themselves. If you were a devoted viewer of Reality Check, you'd know that we started reporting on this months ago. We've been talking about so-called drones operating over sensitive United States military facilities, notably Air Force facilities, for several months. And if you look at the history, and we'll be bringing Marek von Rennenkamp on to talk about this from the Hill later. If you look at the history, you will see that there is a long history of unexplained, anomalous objects doing weird things, in some cases meeting the definition of the so-called 5 observables that cannot be explained as drones. So moving on to the next question. At Chris Dino, D-E-N-O, why hasn't any sensor data other than cell phone video been released? I get why federal authorities won't release anything, but New Jersey must have FLIR, etc. Again, you are entitled to be frustrated. And I think this is why the mayors of the New Jersey region are turning up the heat, because they are frustrated too. They are not getting answers. The Defense Department is refusing to comment on this. When General Pat Ryder, the Pentagon spokesman, was asked at a Pentagon briefing on December the 5th in what passed for the limp lettuce leaf series of questions that were being asked by media on this issue, he couldn't give an answer. He just duck-shoved. I find it incredible that you can have the situation where a year ago in February, well, over a year ago, in February 2023, you had almost public mass hysteria over unexplained objects flying over the US airspace, one of which turned out to be confirmed as a Chinese balloon object. 3 unexplained objects shot down by F-22 fighters, and we still don't know what those objects were, but the level of response was incredible. It became a mainstream mass media issue. There was, wall-to-wall coverage, breathless coverage on the mainstream networks. I do not get why this issue is not being covered more aggressively on any of the mainstream media. That's why we're covering this issue on NewsNation, on Reality Check, because whatever it is, it underlines what Ryan Graves, the former FA-18 pilot, has been saying with Americans for a Safe Aerospace for some considerable period of time, that the issue behind the drones issue, the issue behind the UAPs issue, is that we need to know. We need to have answers. And it raises a grave question that if the government can't give answers about these UAPs, these UFOs, or these drones, whatever they are, these unknown objects over American airspace pose a serious flight safety and national security concern. That's the crux of the issue. If the government knows something, it needs to start giving answers. Okay, so at Kyle_Ferriter, Ferriter, asks, on what basis did you determine that the aircraft in this video was violating airspace laws? I'm sorry, I don't have the video in front of me. I have no idea what you're talking about there. At Pitfan_76, why has no one followed one of these drones home? Same question. We don't know. The simple fact is maybe they haven't been able to. The other plausible explanation is maybe they have followed these drones home and maybe they don't want us to know who the foreign adversary power is behind their deployment, because by accusing Russia or China or whoever it is of deploying these, then you would think that that might be tantamount to an accusation of a declaration of war. Because I think there's a point there. We have to keep a cool head here. It could very well be that our defence leadership is concerned that they do know who is deploying these objects, these drones, if they are drones, and they don't want to escalate by frankly, bluntly accusing in public the Russians or the Chinese of deploying these drones over incredibly sensitive military airspace. I mean, whoever is doing this is doing it brazenly, and apparently in the full knowledge that they can do it with impunity. That has huge implications for national security. It means that we do have massive holes in our counter-UAS strategies. It's quite obvious that the deployment of counter-UAV weaponry is not working. And it doesn't wash to me that we haven't been able to shoot these objects down. We're not talking about shooting these objects down. We have technology that can quite literally take charge of a drone and get it to return to base. So it doesn't wash with me that we haven't been able to bring these drones down, including when they've been over wide open parkland in the New Jersey area. I mean, I know because we've seen vision of helicopters being deployed in these locations, literally looking for these objects while these objects are running rings around them, literally flying around the helicopter. It's quite comical. It would be funny if it wasn't so serious. Okay, at Robbie YYY, with the change of admin imminent, budgets are under threat. Pentagon budgets from DOG will be undoubtedly be cut with new transparency demands. Could it be that the military-industrial complex is creating a threat that needs to be countered by the military-industrial complex? Well, God forbid that that's the case, because if that's the case, it truly means that the conspiratorial claims about a deep state are true. God help us if that's the case. God help us if indeed the Defense Department or any arm of the Defense Department or intelligence community is deploying drones or some kind of unmanned craft over sensitive military airspace without authorization from the government. Why on earth would they do that? It's a good question. It's one we can't rule out. And what it does show, it underlines that the more that there is an information vacuum on this issue, the more people are going to speculate and make grave speculative concerns that frankly might not be true. And that's why the Pentagon needs to come clean and tell us what it knows. At Melanie Kia 26519 asks, what does he mean by the minute you get eyes on them, they go dark, evading radar? And I think that's a reference to New Jersey Governor Murphy, who said, I'll just get his quote again. New Jersey Governor Murphy was interviewed and he said, the drones are very sophisticated. The minute you get eyes on them, they go dark. Now, he's saying he's actually seen them do that. And I've spoken to multiple people who've seen this. And it's interesting because in some cases, these people have been inside cars filming through the windscreen of a car or just out of the window of a car, an object in the distance. As they approach, the object is going dark. Now, how on earth can any drone operator know what a person inside a car is doing with a small handheld video camera? These are questions that quite rightly are being asked by our audience, and we can only assume, because we're not getting any answers from the Defense Department, that they're asking those questions as well. We are way beyond now the era where the Defense Department and the intelligence community can impose a news blackout. They may perhaps be encouraging their mates in the mainstream press to not report this issue. I'm beginning to have grave doubts about why the national security correspondents for the New York Times or the Washington Post or CBS, ABC, NBC, why they're not deploying investigative teams like they would have done in the good old days of mainstream media to go and ask the hard questions. In the media that I was taught to be part of, you wouldn't sit there tamely at a White House press conference and just glibly accept wacky assertions from the White House press secretary that the president is aware of this drone issue. The follow-up question aggressively should be, well, what are you doing about it? And what I'm saying there is we've just become aware while I've been talking that the President Biden has said that he's aware of these drone incursions and that they're taking them seriously. Well, frankly, what the hell does that mean? I mean, is the president taking an active interest beyond just taking an active interest? Is he ordering the Defense Department to give the public an explanation? Is he deploying counter-drone teams, special forces units in the New Jersey area to try to find the people that are deploying these drones? If we are seeing these assets being deployed from over-the-horizon boats, as being suggested by some people, are we deploying naval assets or air assets to catch and interdict these people? We need explanations. The time for lame, glib, stupid comments from Pentagon spokespeople, from the White House, is over. We need answers. And if the mainstream media is not going to cover this, we are on NewsNation. Stick with us. We're going to find you answers. We're not going to let go of this issue. We're going to be like a dog on a bone, and we're not going to let go. So at probably Libby B says, I'm worried it's advanced military tech responding to a very credible and urgent threat, meaning they deployed these secret drones as a last-ditch effort to stop the attack. Has there been increased military police traffic in air or on ground which would support this? Good questions, Libby. And you know what? We don't know the answer, and I suspect they don't either. And that's the issue we should be concerned about. If the Pentagon had any answers, the Pentagon that I know that has always been incredibly friendly and incredibly open about addressing national security concerns would have an answer. They would have a fact sheet ready to go. This is the same Pentagon that when US drones have been operating over the Black Sea adjacent to Ukraine, and when there's been interdictions of those drones by American fighter jets acting offensively and aggressively, we've been quite happy to release vision, clear 4K vision of those interdictions. Why the hell can't we see what they're seeing now over the continental USA? Could it be that whatever this technology is, it's running rings around the United States' most advanced technological systems for interdicting and tracking these systems? If that's not the case, prove it. Now, I'm asking these questions. What I don't understand, and I truly think this is one of the key issues here, I'm sorry to keep on harping on about this, is why much of the mainstream media is so tamely allowing itself to be led by the nose on this issue. You compare the response of February 2023 to the balloon incursion over the United States and the level of public hysteria that was created by the mass media response to that, with the deadening silence that we are hearing at the moment from much of the mainstream media. That, to me, is an issue of grave national security concern. Why is the media not asking the questions? Is there something going on that we don't know about? At lamcho08335065 says, hi, Ross. If Dr. Nolan, that's Professor Dr. Gary Nolan at Stanford University, is right, and some NHI want disclosure and other NHI do not, how might that bear out in what we've been witnessing throughout, but also right now with these drone sightings and even Corbell's intel about them? And are these sightings NHI trying to force disclosure? Okay, well, look, we are seeing speculation about that on UAP, UFO social media. And look, frankly, we do not know. I can only re-emphasize, we do not know if these objects are NHI. But also, at the moment, we don't know that they're not. We don't know that they are. And that's the issue. The Pentagon is not able to give us a categorical assurance one way or the other. Why not? At Jesper Reimkier, Mr. Coulthard, a question. If these things are not a threat, could one consider the opposite, that it is communicating with these so-called drone activity blinking lights and are awaiting a reply in return? To put it bluntly, maybe this is first contact. Love to hear your thoughts. Well, if it is first contact, and if they are endeavouring to communicate by their blinking, nobody's telling us that these are communication signals. If anyone out there has any intelligence at all to suggest that these are signals, then let's hear it. One of the things I do think about the whole UAP disclosure issue, which I think we should treat until we see evidence otherwise as a separate issue from what we're seeing over the United States and over the UK, is we're only ever going to prove definitively what these are when we citizen science it. It's becoming quite obvious that the Pentagon, the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, the Pentagon's UFO UAP Investigation Office, they really have no intention of giving us any intelligence or any information that's going to elucidate public understanding of what I think is the beginnings of an NHI, a non-human intelligence engaging with this planet. It could be that these are NHI. It could be that what these are UAPs demonstrating a capacity to operate impunity over the continental United States as a way of waking people up to their existence. Maybe it's a slow reveal. We just don't know. And that's the issue. That kind of speculation, I think, for the moment is dangerous. And that's why the Pentagon needs to give us answers. Okay, at Mike Honsho _X, could you please further break down PEDs? This is Presidential Executive Action Directives. Can they be FOI'd or where they are found hidden? Is there a singular legacy program all UAP NHI info is hidden in, or are there multiple programs, program structure? Okay, Mike, that's a very good question, and it's a reference to what I was discussing in a previous reality check where I revealed what I now know to be the case, that the Immaculate Constellation details, the special access program called Immaculate Constellation, revealed by my friend and colleague Michael Schellenberger. The reason why the Defense Department was able to categorically deny that it's a Defense Department special access program and it's not known to the intelligence community is because it's a secret program bound by a Presidential Executive Action Directive, a PED. Now, not a lot is known about these. They are certainly not FOIable because the executive arm of the President's office is extremely difficult to get any information on at all. But the allegation is that I've been told that early in the 1950s, in and around 1954, President Eisenhower made a executive action directive, a PED, which essentially ordered that the legacy program go dark. And it began what has been a 70-year-long retrieval reverse engineering program of non-human technology. I refer you all to an extraordinarily revealing exchange with Jake Sullivan, the National Security Advisor, when he was asked a very direct question by a member of the White House press corps just in the last few days. Is the Pentagon hiding alien bodies? Is the Pentagon hiding knowledge of an alien tech retrieval and reverse engineering program? Now, I don't think enough significance has been given to Jake Sullivan's answer. Oh, no, it wasn't Jake Sullivan. I apologize. It was John Kirby. So John Kirby, the spokesman for the National Security Council. And John Kirby couldn't give a straight answer. What he did was essentially refer to the ongoing investigations by Arrow, which is the duck shove, the duck and cover that the Pentagon use. And it shows so well how the Pentagon's Arrow office is essentially being used as a foil by both the President, the White House, and the Defense Department and intelligence community as a way of evading accountability. Because when the media ask a direct question about what does the Defense Department know, the answer from the White House, from the President himself through his National Security Council, is what Arrow knows. Now, could it be that Arrow John Kozlowski, the doctor who's now in charge of AARO, the Pentagon's UFO office? Could it be that Dr. John Kozlowski is being kept deliberately in the dark by those in the Defense Department who actually know what's going on, so that the Defense Department and the President and the White House can continue to maintain plausible deniability? I'm told that's exactly what's going on. And I wouldn't be surprised at all if Dr. John Kozlowski has not been officially read in to what I know to be the case, which is that there is a retrieval and reverse engineering program. I have spoken to very senior officials in different government agencies who have candidly told me on the record, but I'm not going to quote them at their request, they've told me that they know nothing about this legacy program, but that they suspect it may indeed exist. Now, the significance of this is that these are people at a very high level in these agencies. These are people who should know if the rules under Article 1 of the US Constitution were in application, that the executive arm of government is accountable to the Congress. How could any president using a presidential executive action directive in 1954 make an order that excludes presidents and the Congress from being brought into knowledge of a program that is costing taxpayers billions, if not trillions of dollars? It simply doesn't wash to me. And that's the issue. That's why these PEDs, these presidential executive action directives, are very, very important. And that's why the Defense Department has been able to mislead and deceive the public by saying it's not aware of a special access program called Immaculate Constellation. I note that the Office of Director in National Intelligence, my friend and colleague Chris Sharps just reported this morning that ODNI has given an answer to an FOI request on Immaculate Constellation, where it neither confirms nor denies knowledge of such a program name. Now, that's the glib response you'll get on any intelligence agency's refusal to answer a question. So we can't assume that it's a confirmation of knowledge of Immaculate Constellation, but neither can we assume it's a denial. Okay, at Justin Kieron TV said, Ross, you once stated that there was real malevolence from NHI referencing your Grush conversation. In a later segment during the recent Q&A post-congressional hearing, you answered an audience question implying you didn't believe they were malevolent. Yes, I was talking about two different things, and I'm happy to clarify this because a few people have asked me about this. I was talking there about the specific drones and other alleged NHI incursions that people have been reporting to me over US airspace. When I'm talking about malevolence, I'm talking about incidents that are on the public record, things like the Colares incident in Brazil. If you just Google Colares, Colares in Brazil, there is the most extraordinary series of incidents involving the deaths of people, mutilations, attempted abductions by what appear to be craft of some kind, alleged non-human intelligences of some kind. And it's not me saying this, it was Brazilian government and military officials reporting what they saw and filmed during these highly sensitive military operations. And there are other people all around the world telling me that they're aware of operations and incidents where there have been aggressive exchanges between humans and non-human intelligences. In fact, even engagements between special forces and non-human intelligences. I haven't been able to confirm these, so I simply don't know for sure. But in the case of Colares, that to me is a really good example of alleged malevolence. But my point is that if NHI is real, and I think it is, and I do think it is engaging with humanity, most of the phenomenon that is being reported to me by people is largely benevolent and apparently well-intentioned. But we can't say that for sure because we simply don't know what their motives are. Let's be clear, though, any sufficiently advanced civilization that has technologies such as what we're purportedly seeing here, if it really was that advanced, it could have obliterated us thousands of years ago. So I think we have to ask, what are their motives? Why are they here? And I think to some degree, we should assume benevolence until we see otherwise. But yes, there is some malevolence there, but I'm not wanting to overemphasize that. I am aware of extremely grave incidents that have allegedly occurred, and I'm endeavouring to try and prove those, and I'll possibly be bringing those to you in a future story. So as we come out of those questions that, frankly, I'm just not able to answer a lot of them for you, other than to say I simply agree with you that there are a lot of questions that need answers. The big issue is, what's the Pentagon, the Department of Defense, the intelligence community, and all of the oversight agencies, Homeland Security, the FBI? What's Congress? What's the president going to do about this? And I'm more interested to know too, what's the incoming president, President Trump, going to do about this when he takes power in late January? There is now an issue on the plate. I call it the drones debacle. This is a serious national security embarrassment for the United States. It's a public safety threat. We need answers. No longer are we going to put up with the drivel, the ridiculous mumbo jumbo that emanates from the mouths of the various spokespeople from the Pentagon or the White House. We need answers. It's quite clear from what we've uncovered for you in the last 2 days of shows that there is an incapability amongst the FBI and Homeland Security to get answers on this issue. The government needs to come straight with us. If it doesn't know what the hell is going on, then it needs to admit it. I can tell you we're going to be back on Reality Check asking more questions on your behalf. I'm going to keep on trying to dig. If anyone's got any tips, they're more than welcome to get in touch with me. We love hearing from you. And as you can see, we know on NewsNation we're onto a good thing covering this issue. It's the issue you all want to hear about. And we're going to cover this issue if the rest of the media have their heads in the sand or not.
The American public are at risk here.
Right now, the night sky is buzzing with activity.
There's so many things in the sky right now.
But what are they? The president and president-elect sending different messages.
Nothing nefarious apparently, but they're checking it all out.
The government knows what is happening, and for some reason they want to keep people in suspense.
And your elected officials are fed up.
Show us the data. Show us how it's manned aircraft.
That kind of sophistication clearly suggests this is not something that's being done in somebody's backyard.
But are they saying, just don't look up?
You're telling us that the state police shouldn't believe their own eyes. It's almost as if they're attempting to dissuade the public from reporting what they are seeing.
Tonight, we examine why we still don't know what's above our heads. NewsNation sitting down exclusively with people who are hunting these objects.
What we've observed is these things just pop into place.
Have you been able to track where these objects are coming from and going to?
We have knowledge on where they're going in terms of what the target area might be.
And we ask the questions others don't dare to bring up. Could this be a rogue element of the state?
That would be very problematic.
Good evening and welcome to this NewsNation special report, Drones over New Jersey. I'm Ross Coulthart coming to you live from Australia, and as we go to air tonight, the sightings of these mystery objects, drones as the government chooses to call them, are continuing. It is legitimate now to seriously question the official assertions that these objects, whatever they are, pose no threat to national security. It's emerged today in the British media that the British government has held 2 meetings of its COBRA National Security Committee to discuss the deepening drones crisis. This is because, as we'll reveal to you in detail today, the sophisticated technology behind these craft means that we've not been able to track them, we can't bring them down, nor do we know yet who is actually operating them. Someone or something is operating craft in our skies with apparent total impunity. We'll get across now to the NewsNation DC correspondent, Elena Shirazi, for the latest. Elena.
Ross, good evening. Good to be with you. There's certainly a lot of questions about what these sightings are. Not really any answers as of yet. They're saying more so what they're not than what they are, from my experience. The White House saying there is nothing to be worried about, but the government is certainly taking some measures. The Federal Aviation Administration is now banning drone flights over large parts of New York and New Jersey until next month. The Pentagon is also stepping in, but the American public and lawmakers, they want answers.
The bottom line is that our forces, our commanders, if they observe UAS activity that they believe represents a threat, they have the authority to conduct mitigation operations.
The Defense Department authorizing shoot-downs of drones and sending counter-drone technology to military bases. NewsNation pressing the Pentagon this week on how they will spot potential threats.
What would constitute it as a threat? What is the benchmark, and have you been communicating with other military installations to be ready for more of these drones and how to spot if it could be a threat before it might be too late?
This is not a new conversation for us within DoD. I mean, as I highlighted, drones flying, whether here or overseas, is not something new, right? And especially in the United States with 1 million registered drones.
This announcement comes as President Biden says Americans have nothing to fear.
Nothing nefarious, apparently, but they're checking it all out. We're following it closely. So far, no sense of the danger.
But President-elect Trump isn't buying it, accusing the White House and Pentagon of a cover-up.
They know where it came from and where it went. And for some reason, they don't want to comment. And I think they'd be better off saying what it is. Our military knows and our president knows. And for some reason, they want to keep people in suspense.
The House Intelligence Committee held a classified briefing with more than 24 defense and intelligence officials this week. Some lawmakers telling NewsNation they feel confident nothing bad is happening.
There's no evidence that anybody is acting unlawfully here, or that any of these drones, in as much as the authorities know anything about them, are associated with anybody with malign intent.
I think the FBI, the intelligence community, is taking this very seriously, is looking at every report, and to date, there's no evidence that there's anything nefarious going on.
But a majority of lawmakers tell NewsNation they want more answers, including Secretary of State pick Marco Rubio.
Ask you quickly about the drone situation. Are you satisfied?
Anything more than what you've seen in the media?
So, are you satisfied with the response from DoD and from Homeland Security last night?
I think we all wish we knew more.
House Foreign Affairs Committee Chairman Michael McCall sharing his view that a foreign adversary may be at work.
My judgment, based on my experience, is that those that are over our military sites are adversarial and most likely are coming from the People's Republic of China.
In Washington, Elena Shirazi, NewsNation.
I'd now like to welcome New Jersey Congressman Chris Smith and New Jersey Assemblywoman Dawn Fantasia. Congressman, the FAA has announced that it's imposing a TFR, a total flight restriction over large sections of New Jersey. By any measure, this is a significant backdown to the previous position by the government, which has stated that these objects are legal drones, legal aircraft, and you people in New Jersey are all suffering from mass hysteria.
Yeah. Anything but. And, there's 22 different sites that have been put as no-fly zones, and they're the beginning. There will be more. Partners have asked. Jersey Central Power and Light has asked, we believe, that this be done. If you look where they are, it's where there's electrical grids infrastructure, and it just begs the question, if there's nothing to see here, then why are you taking further action to protect? Because that's where these sightings are. And there's more that need to be added, frankly, many more, including in the nuclear station down in Salem County, which has experienced a number of drones. And Earl is a naval weapons station. It's in my district. I've talked to the commanding officer, and they've had drones hovering over the rail line where the munitions are brought from their depot down to the water when they unload them onto ships. And just so you know, we just had a a meeting online with a number of people from Homeland Security, DOD, and I was shocked when the Homeland Security, in answer to my question about what Kirby had said, that what I had revealed that a Coast Guard person, a commanding officer, had said one of his 47-footers had many drones following it right off the coast of Ocean County, and they were 100 feet behind the cutter. It wasn't a cutter, but it was a rescue boat, and they saw it. The sailors saw it, and then when they turned, they followed. Kirby has said, "Oh, we've looked into this. There are jets on their way into John F. Kennedy," and it was repeated today, doubling down that somehow our men and women of the Coast Guard, who are very well trained and situationally aware and very observant, somehow didn't see what they saw. I find that appalling, and it's just par for the course of what we've seen over the last month.
Assemblywoman Fantasia, some sources of mine are telling me from within the police, the Defence Force, and also Homeland Security and the FBI, they're actually saying they feel that the White House is gaslighting the people of New Jersey by suggesting they're not seeing what they're seeing. What's your view?
That's a very, very accurate assessment from a state level. Not only are federal authorities diminishing what civilian reports may be, and of course, I mean, when you open up a tip line to report what you see in the sky, you are going to get a mix of different things. Civilians may misidentify at times, but it's very difficult to misidentify an SUV-sized drone hovering near the tree line that is not following any normal flight pattern that we typically see with aircraft. And to double down, as the congressman said, and refute direct information we were given. Like, I was part of a briefing a week ago at the New Jersey State Police ROC, and Patrick Callahan, the colonel of the New Jersey State Police, clearly stated that he sent his men up in a helicopter, and they landed above the drone, and when they got to that point, the drone turned their lights out and became undetectable. So you tell me, now you are saying that hundreds, if not thousands of New Jerseyans shouldn't believe their own eyes. You're telling us that the state police shouldn't believe their own eyes. You're telling us personnel at Picatinny Arsenal, who reports 11 credible sightings, shouldn't believe their own eyes. And then you have Mayorkas go on TV over the past couple days and say, perhaps it's stars or convenience store drones. Convenience store drones.
Congressman, are people in New Jersey getting alarmed or even frightened by the mixed messaging that they're getting from government?
I think alarmed would be the best term. New Jerseyans are not easily frightened, and I mean that. And I talk to many constantly. I talk to law enforcement. I talk to people on the street, mayors, assemblymen, and thank you for your great work, Assemblywoman. You really have been a great voice. My two sheriffs, Sean Golden and Mike Mastronardi, have done an amazing job of trying to track and to report in a way that is actionable, and they're calm, but they are, like I am, very disturbed by Homeland Security. When you have the Secretary of Homeland Security saying there's nothing unusual about all of this, of course it's unusual. Speak truth to power. Talk to your president and tell him he needs to brief the nation, and DOD needs to step up. And Homeland Security, unfortunately, has done far too little. The state police wants to do more. They need the tools, and local law enforcement needs the tools too. But why can't they bring one of these down, and determine whether or not they are foreign? Are they Chinese? I chair the China Commission. Xi Jinping is a monster, committing human rights abuse every single day, genocide against the Uyghurs. I can't even go there. I'm on the hit list not to be allowed into China. They are very malevolent, and to think that they don't have the capability to do just what they're doing, or Putin and maybe even Iran, we need to know if this is some foreign adversary. I have been told that the highest levels of the U.S. government, they're not U.S. in any way, shape, or form. They're not subcontractees, they're not CIA, they're not DOD, which they've said publicly a number of times. Well, who are they?
Congressman, the government has also made it very clear that there's no evidence that this is a foreign adversary, Russia, China, Iran, or North Korea.
Right.
Do you believe that?
No, I don't think they know, but part of it is they have not. Why can't we bring one of these down? Is our airspace so susceptible and so easily violated that we can't go and say, okay, here they are, let's get at least one and find out where, what's the origin? I asked Secretary Mayorkas on on one of these visual things. I asked him very point blank, follow one. Can't we follow him? And he suggested no. As the Assemblywoman said, the state police said that all of a sudden it goes dark. Well, that kind of sophistication, that kind of stealthiness clearly suggests this is not something that's being done in somebody's backyard. These are not hobbyists. This is probably one of these nation-state terrorist kind of countries like Putin's.
Are you confident that we've got enough protections in place? Is enough being done to ensure that the people of New Jersey and indeed every part of the continent is protected?
No, in a word. It's been bewildering why the group think that we keep seeing from the intel services, where everybody is on the same page with the same talking points, nothing unusual here, nothing to worry about, not a threat. They don't know that. They don't know that at all. I'm asking questions. I don't know if it's a threat from China, Russia, or Iran, or North Korea, but it certainly, begs the question, why are we not aggressively looking to determine the source? And they're not doing that. If they are doing it, they are failing in a colossal way.
Final question to both of you. Congressman,
yes.
Are you seeing any diminution, any reduction in the sightings, or is it actually ramping up?
I would say they're ramping up. I think the sightings, the idea to say these are lawful, and we keep hearing, yeah, there are lawful drones that are up there. It's the unlawful ones and the ones that pose a threat that we're worried about. Don't confuse and try to, the art of misdirection, which is now being used very, very effectively, but we are pushing back. No, I think there's many more.
And Assemblywoman, on the ground, people are alarmed, as the Congressman has said. What's the feeling, and are you seeing, from the reports that you're getting, are you seeing any change at all in the sightings reports? Is there any sign of it going away? Or do you think whoever this is, they appear to be demonstrating that they can operate over our airspace with seeming apparent impunity, aren't they?
Definitely. What I do see is the only time there is any reduction in action of these is when there is severe inclement weather, which New Jersey has not experienced a lot of. As I was discussing prior, we've been in a drought situation for quite a period of time. We have limited rain, very limited snow and whatnot for this time of year. So when the conditions are right and the skies are clear, no, we are not seeing a reduction. What we may be seeing a reduction of is your average Joe calling these in, because that's another issue. There's a bit of a runaround that's happening. We're told don't call in stars, don't call in, ABCD that you're seeing in the sky. And it's almost as if they're attempting to dissuade the public from reporting what they are seeing. And that's frustrating as well. We're in a very dangerous place when the government is telling us, do not believe what you are seeing with your eyes. And we're in an even more dangerous place when our professionals, when our military personnel, when our law enforcement officers are reporting the same. And the federal government is telling them, do not believe what you see with your eyes. And I appreciate the work of Congressman Smith and some of his colleagues there trying to get us answers at the state level, because honestly, we're perplexed.
Well, Congressman Smith and Assemblywoman Fantasia, thank you very much for giving us your views.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Coming up, I sit down with one of the biggest whistleblowers in U.S. history.
I have never seen an administration handle a topic as poorly as this.
What Lou Elizondo thinks is happening in our skies. That's next. Hello and welcome back. It is non-stop right now. I cannot believe the pace of how things are moving so quickly. And to help me in this, we're bringing in a great friend of the show and one of the leaders of this whole issue, Lou Elizondo. Lou, welcome back. Tell us, sir, what on earth is going on?
Well, thank you, Ross, and it's always a privilege to be with you and your audience. Thank you so much for doing what you're doing and highlighting this important topic. The bottom line, we've been saying for years now that we do not have complete awareness of what's in our skies. In fact, it was part of my resignation memo to then Secretary of Defense Jim Mattis. And despite the if you will, the counter remarks of the Pentagon saying no, we do. What happens? Let me remind you and your audience just what happened last year when we started looking for these UAP and recalibrating our radar systems. We start finding Chinese spy balloons wafting over unchallenged over northern continental United States. And step back even 4 years before that, there was an eerily similar situation in Colorado and Nebraska, where drones were being recorded, photographed, and even videoed by local law enforcement. FBI was called out, and they have no idea to this day the origins or where the things were going to or who was behind operating these quote-unquote drones. Now, what I will say, it was very interesting with some of these drones, Ross, is that some of them are being reported without the normal techno-signatures, if you will, of what a drone should be and should sound like. So there's two types of drones we have, fixed wing and rotary wing, and some of these don't seem to be following any of those patterns.
So can I just pin you down on that for a moment, Lou?
Yeah.
There's a thing that you've termed the 5 observables. Are any of these objects, and I'm going to use that neutral term, are any of these objects that are being reported over military bases, over crowded civilian areas, not only on the East Coast, but across the entire US and the UK and other countries, are these objects showing signs of what you would call the 5 observables?
Yeah, Ross, in some cases, yeah. Some people are reporting these things have the ability, first of all, they're moving silently in some cases over major urban area and populated areas. Two, there seems to be some perhaps transmedium characteristics. Some reports have these things coming out of the water and then zipping away very, very fast, what we refer to as instantaneous acceleration. It's and low observability. Can't see them on radars. In fact, when somebody, an investigator, sent up a drone to chase one of these things, it lost power, and his own private drone fell to the ground, and the other thing disappeared into what was described as thin air. Now, I wasn't there myself to see those drones, but I can tell you I have video of these things actually over Andrews Air Force Base. They were over Langley Air Force Base, over some really sensitive facilities that we have here in the United States and overseas. You're right. This is not just New Jersey. It's California. It's Florida. It's Virginia. It's Maryland. It's Washington, D.C. These things are becoming, whatever they are very, very brash, and they're not really afraid to be seen at night.
Let's look at the White House's response, Lou. I'm going to say it. By any measure, it is a messaging public relations disaster. Do you agree?
It is a catastrophe. I have never seen an administration handle a topic as poorly as this. Even you mentioned John Kirby. I hate to say it, shame on him. He comes out and tells people, oh, all these are manned aircraft on normal flight patterns. Meanwhile, you have literally members of Congress taking pictures and videos with their cell phones of these things over their house.
What is going on in the White House, Lou? Why would they say these things when they're so transparently false?
Ross, it's only one of two things, and that's all it can be. Either A, they do know and they're lying, they're not telling the American people, or B, they don't know and they're incompetent. But that's it. So either they're lying or they're incompetent, but there is no other solution. And either one of those is really a bad place for this administration to be in. There's a long history of debacles, to include the Afghanistan withdrawal and a bunch of other things that we just continue to drop the ball on. We're not informing the American people of the truth. And this is yet another example of whatever reason this administration, it doesn't seem to have a handle on things. Now, I will say this, Ross, fortunately, and this is politics aside, okay, so whether you're liberal or conservative or anywhere in the middle, it doesn't matter. This new administration, independent of how someone may feel about the new administration, they've got a lot of key people that are going to be on those cabinet positions that are extremely proactive and dedicated to getting to the bottom of what's actually going on. And I think once people really know the truth, the whole truth about this topic, and particularly the UAP topic, I think there's going to be a lot of reconciliation. I think there's going to be a lot of people having to do some serious thought about what this topic actually means and what's actually going on, potentially.
Still ahead, more from my conversation with Lou Elizondo. Could this be a rogue element of the state?
That would be very problematic.
That's straight ahead. So Lou, let me pin you down. David Grush and you have both said categorically that you know there is a secret retrieval program of non-human technology being operated by the US government. Now, we don't know if the drones that are operating over New Jersey and other parts of America are non-human technology. But let me ask you this in this way, hypothetically. Whatever those objects are, do you believe that the reluctance of the White House to tell what it fully knows about this subject matter has to do with the secrecy surrounding the retrieval program?
It's quite possible. I see two scenarios. I see either A, these are all U.S. made drones, meaning they're our technology, and we have a significant threat issue on our hands, meaning there's somewhere, somehow, weapons of mass destruction may be loose here in continental United States, and they're flying these drones at night with sniffer drones, trying to figure out if we can detect this threat if it exists.
Can I devil's advocate on that one, though? I mean,
yeah, please do, because we'll talk about the alternative in a minute.
No, we have the NEST teams. I mean, I'm told the DOE has very effective nuclear emergency and safety teams, which go in and do this kind of radiological training and search detection. Why would we need to put up multi-lit coloured drones pretending to be aircraft if we've got the NEST teams?
No, that's a really good point. And they've also, why are they breaking protocol by operating only at night? And why are they breaking protocol by not coordinating with state and local tribal authorities as they should be? And other federal agencies like FAA, why are they not using a transponder? Why are they not listed on FlightAware apps that you can have on your mobile phone to track everything in the sky? Why aren't they listing their flight paths with the FAA if they're commercial type drones or military drones? There's a whole litany of reasons why that doesn't make sense. You're right. But I have to put it out there as a form of alternative hypothesis, because the other potential alternative is that we're dealing with two things. We're dealing with, and I don't believe it's foreign adversarial. I believe you could have both a mixture of UAP incidents with real drone incidents as a response to the UAP incidents. Or it could be something even potentially more nefarious. If you really wanted to confuse Americans, what you could do is every time there was a major UAP incident, send up a whole bunch of drones in the area. And then people will start recording drones and pictures and say, oh, that was a drone that you saw. You could do that, right? Part of denial and deception campaign, and it's very much like seeding, right? You start throwing a bunch of stuff of trash in the sky, and people start saying, "Oh, that wasn't a UAP. That was a quadcopter or something to that effect." That is also another possibility. I think that one's that's a bit of a stretch, because that would take a huge coordinated effort, and I think too many people in the know would probably come out and probably blow the whistle on that, if I had to guess.
I've bled my sources dry the last few days, Lou, and
I bet you have, Ross.
I'm pretty sure that, I mean, I know the FBI say it's not theirs, Homeland Security say it's not theirs, and more importantly, the Department of Energy say it's not theirs. We're running out of available agencies. I mean, there's another implication that lies behind this that worries me. Could this be a rogue element of the state?
That would be very problematic. That is, so I shudder at the thought of that, because you're now on very dangerous territory regarding organizations taking unilateral and autonomous control of things in our government, which, from my perspective, that equates to a coup d'etat. Right. So that this would be if this happened, if this is actually what's happening, and there is an element to the rogue state doing this, then, my friend, we've got bigger problems on our hands than drones. I would encourage you and your colleagues in the media to continue to pursue this topic, because I think you're going to find that whatever this winds up being could wind up being something truly paradigm changing in the way we look at things from a national security perspective.
Now you've got me excited. Lou Elizondo, thanks for joining Reality Check. We'll speak to you again soon.
My honor, privilege. Thank you as always.
Coming up, Skywatcher. It's a new organisation specialising in aerospace defence intelligence. They've been on the ground in New Jersey working with the FBI, the Defence Department and Homeland Security. And we have an exclusive interview with two folk from Skywatcher up next. Okay, so one of the big problems for everyone in the last few weeks has been knowing what's going on the ground, behind the scenes, in places like Picatinny Arsenal. What do the Defence Department, what do the FAA, Homeland Security, FBI and local enforcement really know on the ground? Well, we've now got an exclusive interview with a new company that's been working with the Defence Department on this investigation. It's called Skywatcher Technologies Corporation, and the two principal co-founders, Jake Barber and James Fowler, are with me now. Jake Barber, what can you tell me about the work that Skywatcher's been doing on location in New Jersey?
Yeah, so Skywatcher, we provide services, broadly speaking, in aerial intelligence, aerial observation, and trying to compile sensor data in a comprehensive fashion to allow people like the law enforcement agencies working in combination in New Jersey to begin to form a picture that can translate into what we call actionable intelligence, to be able to identify what's going on. The why and who are where we're focused right now. Who is operating the activity, and we'll add another one, what, because what is in question as well. What is operating in the skies over New Jersey? Who is in command of the craft or et cetera that's operating in the skies over New Jersey? And then ultimately, the biggest question that everyone is having fun speculating on right now is why? Why are they doing it?
James Fowler, what are you seeing? I mean, we don't even know for sure, do we, that these objects are drones, do we? What are they?
I would offer that we do know that they're drones. They are probably, in military parlance, Group 3 drones. That would be 3 to 5 meter wingspan craft.
So are we able to speculate? Have you, in the work that you've been doing, been able to track where these objects are coming from and going to?
So in terms of where they're coming and going from, that's still being investigated. We have knowledge on where they're going in terms of what their target area might be. We have knowledge on where they are loitering, but in terms of where they come from and where they go to, that's being investigated currently now. There's a lot of speculation out there looking at the ocean. There's a lot of speculation looking at places on land. So wherever the drone base is, it won't remain a mystery long for the public, but it is discoverable.
So by any definition, this is a national security threat. What we're talking about here is potentially a nation state. Are you able to speculate who is deploying military-sized drones over some of our most sensitive military facilities?
So I would offer, this is more gray warfare than it is black and white. This isn't traditional World War II style, hey, there's German airplane, there's American airplane. It's more disguised than that. I believe that right now we're looking at a conflict within our government of, is this an act of war or is this a criminal action?
Now, Jake Barber, the commander of the Picatinny Arsenal, put out a press release about a week ago stating that there had been 11 reported confirmed incursions by apparent drones over the Picatinny Arsenal restricted airspace. Have you and your Skywatcher team confirmed those ongoing breaches of the airspace by drones?
I've been on Picatinny Arsenal this week. It's a pretty calm place. I'll tell you that it's clear to me that the Picatinny Arsenal is not involved. This isn't some exercise that they're complicit in. They're concerned just as much as everyone else is.
And Mr. Barber, have you actually confirmed, I think you've got vision, haven't you, which you've shot through night vision. It actually shows these objects disappearing or apparently turning their lights off over the Picatinny Arsenal.
Correct. Correct, or in the vicinity at least. They're in and around the airspace over Picatinny Arsenal.
So let me explore what I think are the quite dramatic implications behind what you two gentlemen are conveying to us today. Essentially, what you're describing is a well-resourced possible nation-state that is deploying what sound like highly advanced drones, multi-hundreds of thousands of dollars drones, each one of them, in some cases clusters of 50 of them, in operations against the east coast of the United States. But by any measure, that is a national security crisis, isn't it?
100%.
So yes, and I would offer, if you recall the harassment of our fleet in the Pacific off the West Coast, that was believed to have been conducted by the Chinese off of a cargo vessel in the vicinity. If you look at Langley Air Force Base, the incursions there last year, a Chinese national was detained at the perimeter or in the vicinity of Langley Air Force Base, recovering a drone from a tree. So if we look at the past performance and even add to that the incursion of the Chinese balloon over U.S. airspace, it pretty much points a finger to the only entity that has a past performance of conducting incursions U.S. mainland airspace, and that's China. So are these Chinese drones, I would say, based on the past performance of China operating in the United States? Very likely. The addition of a SATCOM technology, that's not really that bespoke. That's available in kits. You can do that with homemade items. But I would offer flying a 3 to 5 meter drone in a formation over tens or hundreds of miles, standoff from the launch point and recovery. Okay, that's a nation state activity, especially when you consider more than one drone.
Well, gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. I guess we'd love to check in with Skywatcher as your investigations go on. I presume you're going back and redeploying over the New Jersey area, and we look forward to hearing more from you on what you find.
Wonderful. Thanks, Ross.
Coming up, we'll be answering some of your viewer questions. And by crikey, you've got a lot of them. Okay, so I want to answer now some of the questions that our viewers are asking. You've been barraging with questions in the last few days, so here's a few of them. Firstly, why is it invariably assumed that these objects do not contain living crew? Some of them are being reported as the size of a large bus. Even the smaller ones could contain beings smaller than humans if they are indeed alien. Just because they look superficially somewhat like drones, it doesn't mean they are completely automated nor externally controlled. Okay, well, Dagmir-N71, there is an assumption in your question that this is alien. We don't know that. We just don't know that for sure. The government is suggesting otherwise. It's pushing the line that these are simply drones. What's implausible about the government's position, I believe, is that they have no explanation about who is responsible for these drones, nor can they explain where they are coming from or where they're going to. They know, I think, absolutely nothing about them, and it does entitle us to ask the question that I think has been posed by at least one congressional representative: could this possibly be NHI, non-human intelligence? Certainly, if it is NHI, we have no knowledge what's inside the craft if it is. It might be occupied by some alien being, we simply don't know. At the moment, it's idle to speculate. But the government's increasing vacuum on information is the issue. All it's doing is feeding growing public speculation that it's hiding something. Add to that the fact that there's increasing evidence that these objects, whatever they are displaying anomalous performance characteristics. They are capable of stealth management. They can go dark. They can literally disappear. They are also able to manage their signature, their visual and audio signature. They appear capable of presenting themselves as looking like aircraft, like helicopters or planes, when in fact they're not helicopters and planes. They're displaying what look like navigation lights, which don't appear to be proper FAA-approved navigation lights. They are also able to not display any kind of RF signature that allows them to be interfered with standard RF jamming equipment. Whatever they are, they're highly advanced and they're not known conventional drones. At Powerflower69 asks, to be clear, are these things coming from the sea or were they underwater and emerging from the sea? There is a small difference, and you're absolutely right. There is a significant difference. We don't know. There's no images of these objects operating what you would call transmedium. There have been suggestions that these objects are coming from underwater, but as yet I've seen no evidence that they are moving transmedium. At the moment, we have politicians and law enforcement saying that these objects have been videoed coming from the direction of the ocean, and I think that's what they're referring to. But I think there's a lot of speculation that these objects, whatever they are, do appear to be coming from the ocean, i.e. underwater. We just don't know yet because we don't have the evidence. At LH-Minis says, it's not just the US. These drones are in the UK, Russia, Australia, New Zealand. Shouldn't all nations be speaking about this? Oh, yes, we should. Now, in fact, it's not being spoken about in my country, Australia, but I've got reports that they've been seen over Sydney Airport. This morning, I've received reports that they've been seen over Croatia, Iran, Albania, and different parts of Eastern Europe, including, by the way, Russia. So whatever these objects are, they're worldwide. And a lot of people are reporting to me that they're seeing very similar objects to the objects being seen over New Jersey. They present superficially as drones. They have an audio signature of a conventional drone, but at times they're also operating silently, absolutely silently, with no visible propulsion system. They're displaying lights that appear to make them look like aircraft, but they're not aircraft. We just don't know what they are. And the one thing we know for sure is neither does the government. Coming up, what does this all mean? My take, my analysis on what's been unfolding in what I can only call the Great Drone Debacle. So as we go out tonight, the biggest takeaway I'm getting from you, the viewers, is you want answers, and you're not getting them from government, Congress, or anyone who's responsible for protecting the national security or the safety of our skies. There's a genuine concern out there in the public domain that we're not getting straight answers on these objects, these mystery objects in our skies. A lot of you aren't buying the official government explanation that you're simply suffering from mass hysteria, that this is a mass misidentification of what are legal aircraft of some kind operating in our skies. It's quite clear from the people we're talking to on the ground that at least some of the characteristics of these objects are indeed anomalous. They're stealthy, they're hiding themselves, they're manipulating the batteries of drones that come near them, they're not showing a thermal signature, they're not able to be interfered with what are the normal RF jammers used to bring down drones. The public wants answers and you're not getting them. We've done our level best tonight on NewsNation to bring you up to date with what's happening on the ground in New Jersey, and we'll be continuing to follow this subject on my show Reality Check that you can find on YouTube. I'm Ross Coulthart. Thank you for joining us. I hope we've helped you tonight understand at least a little bit more about what's going on in our skies over New Jersey.
Hey, thanks for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your screen. And don't forget, click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.